Hi everyone, welcome to Advisory. This year we will continue to be thinking about how the use of AI can either help or harm our learning depending on how we choose to use it. For those of us who were here last year for Advisory, some of this is going to look a little familiar to you, but there is a lot of new stuff that we've included, so please stick around and stay tuned. Also, as a quick note, all of these slides will be posted in your Advisory courses, and so if there are hyperlinks for additional learning, you'll be able to access them through your Schoology course as well later. So, let's start by defining AI. We're talking mostly about generative AI, which is, of course, generative artificial intelligence, and it works by taking in massive amounts of data, identifying patterns in that data, and assembling the most likely string of words or pixels to satisfy a prompt it has been given. It can have human-like conversations, answer questions, assist you with a bunch of different tasks, but it is so important to remember that AI is not human. Generative AI does not have a consciousness and does not comprehend what it's producing. And the reason I want to emphasize this is because it can be very tempting to treat AI like a friend, to tell it your problems, ask it for advice, things like that. But it doesn't have the social emotional intelligence to actually understand what it's telling you. It just wants to please you. And so it wants to give you what you want to hear. And so just be aware of that. AI is definitely not human. Please remember that when you're using it. Additionally, the companies that created these AIs were not thinking about them being used in academic purposes, and so it was not designed as a learning tool, nor was it founded in reliable factual data. It scrapes data sets from the entire internet, and we all know that the internet has a wide variety of misinformation, disinformation, and so just be aware of that as you're using it. That's not to say that AI isn't beneficial at all. Here are some examples of things that AI can help with. So automation of repetitive tasks, we might refer to the chatbots that are available 24/7 to help with things like customer service requests. Quicker access to synthesized information refers to the way chatbots are being used to replace Google search. And so you can ask for information, AI will comb through lots of different sources and compile the most relevant information for you. Important to remember that you need to verify that information, though. You can't just accept that as fact. Improved personalization of content talks about targeted advertisements, things that you want to click on, actually see. Analysis of large data sets help us identify patterns that humans might not otherwise be able to notice because we can't process the amount of data that AI can. And generation of simulations, talking about role-playing scenarios, practice problems, helping people train for things. However, it is very important that you are cautious about a few particular things, right? And so we want to start by saying that AI has been known to provide flawed and outright incorrect answers. AI aims to please and will go to great lengths to get you the information that you are asking for. In some cases, it will even make things up entirely. So this is especially dangerous because the AI can assert things with confidence and its answers really sound convincing. As a result, we recommend that you verify the information you receive with external sources. Don't just accept the very first answer that AI provides. Google around, use databases, even talk to other people to see if the other sources corroborate what the AI is telling you. Next thing to be aware of, privacy concerns. AI is data hungry. Every question we ask it gives it insight into our interests and what's on our mind. So all the personal information that's collected could lead to repercussions down the road for college admissions, healthcare, credit scores, things like that. We strongly encourage you not to input personal information, no names, addresses, personal anecdotes, things like that, because we don't know how it could end up being used. Another thing to think about is that there is bias built into the system. AI is trained by looking through vast sets of data, but all data, even when it's purportedly numbers-based and objective, is biased because it's collected by humans. This is due to the fact that all humans have unconscious biases that subtly affect the way we view the world and the choices we make. For example, Safiya Noble, a computer scientist and internet scholar who wrote Algorithms of Oppression, examined for-profit search engines, most notably Google, and discovered how not neutral search is. Words like professor turned up gendered images, and words like professional hairstyles turned up only white women with sleek hair. There have been improvements to the algorithm since these findings, but it still returns racist and gendered content. All this to say, you must be a critical consumer of media. Know the source of your information and evaluate its reliability before doing anything with it. And so to do that, we strongly encourage you to prompt the AI to present alternative perspectives and ask it questions in different ways. A lot of what it produces depends on the way a question is phrased. After verifying information with outside sources, we also encourage you to evaluate the sources to understand potential areas for bias. Use the CRAP test that our history classes are teaching you about: currency, relevance, authority, accuracy, and purpose. Check all of those areas to see that the actual sources are reliable. The last thing we wanted to mention are the environmental impacts of using AI. Powering the data centers and processing queries from users takes an extraordinary amount of energy. While the actual numbers may vary depending on how close or far you are to a data center, what time of day it is, things like that, there is general consensus that a single AI query uses about 5 to 10 times more energy than a standard Google search. And because companies need their data centers to be running 24/7, they seek out more reliable forms of energy, which tend to be dirtier and cause more emissions. In addition to energy, data centers need massive amounts of water to keep their servers cool enough to continue functioning. And on top of that, there is the cost of resource extraction, which can lead to soil erosion and pollution, and electronic waste that also contributes. Here's a quick visual of the impacts. And so writing a 100-word email using ChatGPT uses about 500 milliliter bottle of water and 140 watt-hours of energy, which is enough to force 7 full charges of an iPhone Pro Max. Right, and so it does have a very serious impact every time you choose to use AI, which is why, if you intend to use AI, we encourage you to use the right tool for the task. Think about which AI tool is most appropriate for the task that you are trying to complete, or if an AI is even necessary at all. If you're looking up factual information, a standard Google search will serve you very well, maybe even better. Additionally, if you are choosing to use AI, we encourage you to prompt the AI efficiently to get satisfactory results more quickly. We'll talk about some recommended guidelines for how to do this, but one quick tip is to not waste energy on being polite. Again, AI is not human, and so writing please, thank you, adds to the queries and requires a little bit more energy every single time. So just skip that step. Here are some additional learning in case you're interested. Okay, so because AI has the potential to be both beneficial and problematic, our goal today is to think about how we can approach AI usage responsibly. Our goal here in FUHSD is to provide you with a true education, one that teaches you to think critically and encourages you to develop a strong moral character. In pursuit of this goal, FUHSD's academic honesty policy does include AI misuse guidelines because AI is a powerful tool, but it cannot replace learning. While it may make learning tasks quicker if we're not thoughtful about our usage, we may also be depriving ourselves of the intended learning and thinking skills, which is then going to compound as we no longer have a foundation of skills to build upon. So here is our academic honesty policy with the AI misuse guidelines. Prohibited use of AI includes, but is not limited to, attempting to misrepresent the authorship of student work, i.e. having someone else write a paper or having an AI write a paper in whole or in part, using artificial intelligence tools when specifically disallowed by the teacher, and using AI bypasses the learning instead of supporting student learning. Okay. So we would love for you to discuss this. Can you submit work that you originally produced but had an AI revise? Take a moment, discuss with your peers, pause the video, and come back for some answers. The answer is no. Even if you write something yourself, if you allow an AI to revise it and then submit it as is, it is no longer your own original thinking. However, if you treated the AI as a peer editor and asked it for suggestions on how to revise that you then decided to either accept or reject and implement changes yourself rather than letting it revise your writing for you, it could be a valid use of AI. But you always have to ask your teacher what is and isn't acceptable usage in their particular course. Additionally, who do you ask and where do you look to determine whether or not you can use AI as a tool to support you in completing an assignment? Pause the video, discuss with your peers, come back for an answer. You can look through your course syllabus and/or ask your teacher. Asking your teacher is always the safest option. Do keep in mind that in addition to FUHSD's overarching academic honesty policy, each of your teachers will have their own unique policy regarding AI that best fits their subject area, curricula, and professional experience. And so you do need to pay close attention to the AI policy outlined in each teacher's syllabus, and if you're ever unsure, please ask. Ask those clarifying questions. It never hurts. Okay. However, there are some obvious situations in which using AI and submitting the produced work constitutes academic dishonesty. Those situations include using AI to generate any portion of a written work or visual work that you submit, thereby claiming it as your own original thinking, using AI to solve problems for you, create false data or sources to support your own perspective, or using AI on any assignment or assessment that was intended to be completed individually. There are some very serious consequences to violating our academic dishonesty policy, which include the lowering of grades, zeros, Fs, removal from courses, goes onto your actual academic record, and this is going to follow you through high school. So it really emphasizes the importance of producing your own work. Not only is there value in actually doing that productive struggle and learning the skills and practicing them, but the consequences that come with violating our academic dishonesty policy are also quite severe. So do keep that in mind, that it's really not worth cheating. Don't do it. So how can we use AI responsibly? This is a process that we think might help. And so you clearly define the problem that you're trying to solve. You start with that. Identify the tool that is best suited to helping you solve the problem. Then, if you decide that AI is the right tool, you input a clear and detailed prompt including the task, context, constraints, and format, which we'll get into. And then evaluate the quality of the output and adjust as necessary. So, when we say clearly define the problem that you're trying to solve, this is what we mean. You have to do some reflection, right? And so you're going to think to yourself, what is the task that I have to do? For example, I might have to write an interpretive essay about the Scarlet Letter, explaining how the author uses a lit device to convey a theme. That's my overarching task. It's kind of a big project. And so I can break it into smaller parts. There are a lot of steps that contribute to this overarching task. I have to find quotes with the same lit device and the same topic, identify a theme about that topic, write a thesis explaining my ideas, and explain how the quotes support my claim. That's kind of like the basic parts there. Of those parts, I have been able to think of quotes that I like. Relying on AI to find quotes is not helpful because it can make things up for you, and so really not reliable at all. Identify a theme about that topic. I have definitely ideas about that, so I'm not stuck there. I think I'm struggling with how to actually write the thesis, put it together. What are the actual parts? I need a refresher on that, and so determine the part that you're actually stuck on, right? If you have a more specific, clear, targeted task for the AI, it's going to help it. So I don't really know what the parts of the thesis are or the best way to arrange them for clarity. That's what I'm going to focus on for my example. Once you've identified the specific area you're stuck on, ask yourself, will using AI to help me get unstuck prevent me from practicing the skills and or learning the content knowledge as the assignment intended? And so you can determine that by looking at your teacher's lesson objective. It might be on their whiteboard or on their slides, could be on the actual assignment sheet. What is the prompt asking you to do? Look at the rubric. What are the different categories? What are the different descriptors describing the different levels of skill that you're going to demonstrate? But if you're really unsure, ask your teacher, right? They can tell you. Next thing to think about is whether or not I can use a Google search or if I actually want to use AI. Google search is useful if you want factual, verifiable information and credible sources right off the bat, right? That's the easiest way to do that. But if you're looking for more of a back and forth, a conversation, something where you can brainstorm or problem solve, break down more complex topics or deepen your understanding, or you're asking for something to help create practice opportunities for you and give you feedback on something, then an AI could be a useful tool there. Keep in mind that some AIs have unveiled features explicitly intended to support academic learning. For example, ChatGPT's study mode, which is new. Do not assume that this means that the AI has proper limitations in place to make it appropriate for school usage and that you can use it in any of your academic assignments just because it has study mode attached to it and it's limiting itself. In tests, it hasn't been as limited as most teachers would prefer. And so I do not recommend just using it willy-nilly like that. Always clarify with each of your teachers what appropriate usage of AI looks like in their specific classroom and on each specific assignment, okay? So I have decided that AI could be useful for me with this thesis statement issue that I'm dealing with. This is the way I would create a prompt to ask it how to help me. So there are 4 categories. The task is the actual action that I want it to complete for me, and so it usually requires some sort of action verb. Here's some listed here. Context would be who is the audience for this information, my grade level, the class that I'm in, the book that I'm talking about, what type of essay I'm writing, what concepts need to be included, what lit devices am I allowed to choose from, what topics are we focusing on, you can limit it like that. What do you already know? Well, I know the parts kind of a thesis, maybe not that clearly, I could use a refresher, and I don't really know how to put them together, so that's what I don't know. Constraints are so important. You need to be explicit about what the AI should and should not do for you. Again, it aims to please, and so it can be overzealous sometimes, and so here are some examples of things you might do to limit it. Do not give me answers. Only ask me questions. Keep your answers to 2 sentences, right? Give it the limitations so that it knows how it can operate. And then the format is just how you would like to see the information outputted. The default is usually a paragraph form, but if you want it in any other format, define it here. Okay. So here, for example, is a bad prompt. Write a thesis statement for my Scarlet Letter essay. Take a moment, discuss with your peers, why is this a bad prompt? Pause the video and come back for answers. Well, AI is thinking for you. You don't get to practice the skills of analyzing evidence to identify patterns, developing an argument, organizing your ideas concisely and coherently. It's doing all of the work for you. It's doing the learning, right? And this is what it might look like. So if I input this prompt directly into ChatGPT, this is what it asks. There's some questions that it needs to clarify before it can help me really. And then it produces a general thesis statement. This one I could theoretically pull and use in my essay directly, but it's not a particularly good one. There's a lot of things happening here. And it doesn't teach me anything about how to write one myself, right? I don't learn how to actually write a thesis statement or what goes into it. It's just showing it to me. Not particularly helpful. But this would be a better prompt, right? Write a bullet point list, which is the format, explaining what should be included in a thesis statement. So that's a task. For a literary analysis essay that an 11th grader would be asked to write about the Scarlet Letter, context, and generate a sentence frame that I can use to help me write my own. A second task. Do not write an example thesis for me, right? That is an important limitation, and this is what it would look like. When I put that prompt in, it gives me a list of things that I would include in my thesis statement so that I can remember the different parts, right? You would want to verify this with what the format that your teacher actually taught you in class. And then it gives me a sentence frame to help me write my own. I have to put in all the different ideas. All these little brackets are where I would input my own ideas because I have thoughts about the essay. But I just don't know how to organize it. So it shows me a way that I can do that, right? I learn how to put all the pieces together and where they make the most sense in terms of clarity. Okay, let's practice with another one. Revise my paragraph to make it clearer. Take a moment, explain why this is a bad prompt, pause the video, and come back for answers. Unsurprisingly, once again, AI is doing the thinking for you. You aren't practicing really any skills. You're not proofreading, not actually doing the nitty-gritty of revising, seeing what works, grappling with the confusion, developing an authorial voice. It would just be the AI writing it for you. And so it would look something like this. Here's my prompt. Here's my paragraph for my art history class. And it just changed things. It rewrote it for me. I did nothing. Even though that was originally my thinking, now it's no longer really mine. However, a better prompt would be something like this. Read the paragraph that I've written, that's a task, for my art history class where I argue that Van Gogh has more notable contributions to post-impressionism than Cézanne. That's my context. Give me suggestions for how I can make my argument easier to understand. Task. Do not revise my work. Just make a list of areas that you think are unclear and ask questions about them to help me revise. Right? Again, the limitations are so important to making sure that I can remain an active participant in my own learning. And this is what the prompt would then turn out. Right? It takes my paragraph and it lists out areas where it thinks it could be clearer or more thoroughly explained, right? And tells me why it doesn't like that portion, right? It gives me the feedback, what about it could be improved, and then questions to then make me think about how I could expand, clarify, add, subtract, right? And then I have to do the thinking as the writer of which parts of these do I think are actually going to be helpful for my writing and which are not. So there is the benefit of seeing where I can improve, getting some thoughts, but then also continuing to do my own thinking. Okay, so that's how I would then have the output. The last step is to evaluate the quality of the output and adjust as necessary. Again, highly recommend the CRAP test: currency, relevance, authority, accuracy, and purpose. Ask yourselves these questions, put it through the ringer, making sure that the information that the AI is providing to you is as accurate as possible. Okay? To recap, AI bypassing the learning looks like relying on it to give you the answers, making broad requests, submitting AI-generated responses. We don't want to do any of that. We want AI to support our learning. So asking it to help me deepen, extend, or challenge current understandings, making targeted, limited requests where it plays a small role in a very clear task. Synthesizing AI-generated responses with my own knowledge, perspectives to create something new. That is more acceptable use of AI. And as a final parting thought, here are some general guidelines for using AI responsibly. Know your teacher's specific AI policy. Again, consult the syllabus and talk to your teachers, please. For each assignment, if you are even remotely interested in using an AI in any capacity, please be aware of where that's happening, and then ask explicitly if it is acceptable to use it that way. Always start by identifying what skills and content knowledge the assignment is asking you to demonstrate so that you can be sure that you are remaining active and not bypassing the learning as was intended. If you do end up using AI, don't input personal information. Always verify the information you receive. Don't try to pass off AI-generated content as your own in any capacity. And again, be very specific and detailed about how you prompt the AI so that you can be efficient and get the results that are actually going to be useful to you. Okay? Hopefully, this is a helpful starting point for thinking about responsible usage of AI. We hope that you have a wonderful school year. We'll check in again later.